Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reisberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'm chatting with Barbara Daoust, an acclaimed success coach, author, and inspirational speaker. Barbara shows entrepreneurs, business owners, and individuals how to break through their inner ceilings and play a bigger game in both their personal and professional lives. Please enjoy Barbara Daoust. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I am here with Barbara Daoust. She is an acclaimed success coach, an author, and inspirational speaker. Welcome, Barbara, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Mari.
I am so excited to have you here. I'm so curious to get the answers to the questions from you. And you have such a unique story. You have your own history in creativity and performing, and now with the success coach and inspirational speaking and authoring that you do. If you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes to share a little bit more about who you are and what you do so our listeners know where you're coming from.
Sure. Thank you for asking. So essentially, I started my career in theater. Mm-hmm. And, as a young child, I just wanted to perform and eventually went and got a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater, mm-hmm. and with a specialization in drama and education. So I taught in the school system for quite some time, and I moved to San Francisco. I'm originally from Montreal.
Okay.
And I moved to San Francisco, founded a theater company there, and then started directing and producing productions for my company and for other companies. My biggest claim to success at that time was a show at the Kennedy Center. So I was like 29 years old, and that was really a great experience. Although, there were certain things I would do over again.
Understood, but wow, what an accomplishment.
Yep. And then I decided that I would get my master's in directing at UCLA. So I went to UCLA for 3 pretty intense years, getting a master's degree. And then I couldn't find a job for quite some time afterward. I applied to over 250 universities to become a professor. And I had already had success, with directing and teaching. And mm-hmm. I was a California Arts Council artist in residence. But that didn't matter. I couldn't get arrested. So, but I happened to be recommended for a position to be the personal acting coach to the Olsen twins.
Okay.
So I was their acting coach for 10 years.
Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. The stories, I'm sure, the experience, that world.
Yeah. I started working with them when they were 7 until they were 17. That was pretty much the end of their acting career at that time. Mm-hmm. And I founded a young professionals acting academy. So I had a lot of babies who are now quite accomplished stars and starlets. And then it was 2 months before my 25th wedding anniversary, my husband passed suddenly.
Oh my goodness.
And I just collapsed and didn't know how to be creative. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Because I was so creative in my life, most of my life, I very creatively sabotaged and spiraled downward and used my imagination against me for quite some time. And so I just went on a road of recovery and lost 4 more people within a 2-year span. I found my late husband's mother dead in her apartment. My father died suddenly, and then my best friend and then my brother-in-law jumped out of a plane and his parachute didn't open.
Wow.
And so I was what they call, smacked across the head. Yeah. And it was like my wake-up call to what my next journey in life was to be. Mm-hmm. And I just I took quite some time to unveil, and it was creativity. And I can, share some stories about that got me reconnected, let's say, to wanting to live again.
Yeah.
And because I was definitely on a journey to meet others, my loved ones on the other side.
Uh-huh.
And from there, I wrote a book called True Love, True Self, A Journey to Self-Love.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I took a program, a spiritual psychology. It was a master's program in spiritual psychology. I had no intention of coaching. It was for myself to heal.
Yeah.
And then I took another law of attraction program, again, not to coach, but to heal myself. But I had
Mm-hmm.
to start working with people. And once I started working with people, I discovered that a lot of these tools and principles and ideas that, I had been living my life from the outside in, seeking approval outside myself for so
Mm-hmm.
many years. I was like 50 years old before I really understood the concept of, you know, setting a goal, achieving a goal, and being an entrepreneur. I was just living my life by default, letting
Yeah.
it go from gig to gig to gig and being happy. I was a freelancer. I had a freelancer mentality. When's my next gig? You know,
Right.
and so it was like a survival mode for quite a long time, the struggling artist mentality.
Yeah.
Even when I was working with the Olsen twins for 10 years, I still maintained my theater ethics, even though I was on sets where they were wearing $400 blouses, you know,
Right.
and and then from there, I certified with Bob Proctor. He was a
Mm-hmm.
thought leader, and he can be seen in The Secret.
Mm-hmm.
And I certified in a program with him called Thinking into Results. And that was back in 2013. And I've been pretty much delivering that program to a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners, helping them play a bigger game and achieve their goals, but not in an incremental way, but in quite an exponential way. And the
Yeah.
program dramatically changed my life. My coaching practice doubled. I tripled my income in less than a year.
Oh my gosh,
So
amazing.
yeah, it was really amazing. And it's an amazing program. And I continue to show others how to do the same.
That's wonderful. And my goodness, that's your story. It's so rich and there's so much going on. And it sounds like you've had so many quote unquote callings in your life and at various ages and stages. And what a beautiful that you listened. And it sounds like at times had no other choice but to
Exactly.
listen. But
Exactly. Yes.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And it sounds like the work that you're doing now is hugely fulfilling and brings you a lot of joy and you love sharing it. Not that you have shared it with me, but I get that sense that you love sharing it with other people to help them grow and change and reach their goals and dreams in their own life and
Yeah.
careers.
Yeah. It's very rewarding.
Nice. I love it. Wonderful. Well, I love that there's so much creativity and lapses of creativity and uncovering creativity in your life. And I'm curious, when you think about what it means to be creative, what does it mean to you to be creative?
For me, at one time, I didn't even question what creativity was, right? I just was.
Right.
It's that from a very young age, singing and dancing and drawing and painting and clay work. And, it was just, that's all I wanted to do, from picking tree branches and whittling them and painting them and just being an expression, because really creativity for me is when you're in your heart. And,
Yeah.
when you're in your heart, you're really in the moment. And as I've learned over all these years, that, the journey is to really discover how to be in the moment, and so creativity, I believe, is the pathway to enlightenment. And, to be in the zone or to
Yeah.
be in a state of expression, right? Because we're goal-seeking organisms. We want to express. I believe that energy, spirit, the universe is moving to and through us, seeking fuller expansion. So we want more, we want to grow, and we want to be expressed. It's just that I think that somewhere along the way we get confused between the human condition, and then the art of, expressing oneself.
Absolutely. And I think there's also that kind of stereotype that you brought up earlier, the starving artist. How can you live truly from your heart and find enlightenment or expand from your heart space when that heavy idea of starving artist is still held in our society?
Yeah, well, especially when, I can remember directing shows for other companies, and this is back in the 80s. I had awards and recognition, but I was paid $400, for 3 months of my life, and
oh my goodness.
To sustain that, it worked for as long as it worked. That as long as I could say that I was a struggling artist and I could say it with pride, then I could continue my art and stay in the justification of, being an artist. And that if anybody, because I could say I was counter, culture, or I was counter capitalistic, or, didn't matter that I was eating a burrito a day, it was just, or shopping in thrift stores, or, I rejected money. I even rejected the concept of money in order to be an artist, and it wasn't until I realized that the two can go hand in hand if you're open to it.
Yeah. I think that so many quote unquote creatives or artists have a very similar experience of not wanting to face money, that isn't why they do something. And yet we live in a country and a culture that the currency happens to be, we're not on a barter system anymore.
Exactly. And the conditions have not improved any either since the 80s. It's, my partner of 14 years is an actor and primarily does theater, and has been able to manage because he works a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're not working a lot, it's like the side hustle, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's the, what do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. No, what do you do? Oh, I wait tables, or I teach, or I eat the extra things that make you able to pursue a career in the performing arts. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I've heard you kind of briefly speak to kind of blocks or challenges in creativity, but what, if you wouldn't mind sharing some challenges that you have faced around creativity, and then how do you face those challenges?
It's a great question, Mari. I'm in a block right now. I teach people how to play a bigger game, and most of my clients play a bigger game than I do. Because I right now I have identified for myself that I'm in a comfort zone. And there's two ways that we change, and one is through a trauma, like I did have with losing my husband and all my loved ones so suddenly.
Yeah.
And then the other way is through constant spaced repetition of a new idea. So right now I'm stepping into what's that new idea, and so what is that bigger version of myself? And I say to people, you probably don't know who you really are, and you never will, until you discover the parts of yourself you haven't yet met. So how do you meet those parts? And what I tell people is you have to pretend. You have to start acting the part of becoming more than, or envisioning and using your imagination. So the way that I'm stimulating myself is, creating a new brand. I'm writing a new signature program. And the way I do it, though, is through visualization and taking action, like no matter what, stepping in and at least delivering a block of time to content writing a day, let's say, using visualization. And I also use a tool called PQs, which are presupposing questions.
Okay.
And what that is that you ask your brain to go looking for an answer, and you start a question with why. So we're not motivated by how, we're motivated by why.
Yeah.
So when you say, why does my life suck? Your brain is going to go looking for why your life sucks and keeps showing you why your life sucks. So it's to ask the questions, why am I so successful? Why am I attracting the perfect role? Why am I writing a signature program that's, that lights everybody on fire? Why am I, being so creative that it's coming, it's spilling out of me? Why? And you keep asking why without answering the question. And you let the brain go searching for it, because the brain is a search engine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. What a great tip and tool to have at your fingertips, just asking that question, why? And I hadn't really thought about what you were saying, the how you do something and why you do something and that difference. But as you're talking, I'm agreeing absolutely with you.
Right? Like if you think about going after a big dream or a big goal, as soon as you ask how, you put the brakes on.
Right.
Right. And then all the excuses, the justifications, qualifications, rationalizations, just doubt, fear, worry just pours right in. Versus when you say why, then you are now motivated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love thinking of your brain as a search engine. I mean, it essentially is, and that there are answers and opportunities tucked away that can come to the surface as if you're willing to ask and willing to receive and pay attention to them. Because I think that's another area that a lot of people, they might ask, but then doubt the response or question it as well.
Exactly. That's why it's like if you ask a computer a specific question, it gives you a specific answer. If you ask it a generalized question, you're going to get generalized results.
Right.
And that there are other ways. Having been a performer, that the biggest key to successful performing, I believe, is relaxation.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're relaxed, you're in the moment. So it's to inspire creativity, find any way to be relaxed. Allow yourself to relax and dream and fantasize. Make a list of all the things you want in your life, in your personal life. Make a list of all the things you want in your professional life. Go on walks or take a shower and ask these questions. Meditate. Relaxation is key to creativity. And most people are holding on to control, or as myself in the past, I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I would really be, it had to be this way and it had to feel this way. And instead of really experiencing that moment, heartfelt moment.
Yeah. I love that.
Edison, you know the story about Edison? He used to take a nap every afternoon.
No. What's the story?
He would take a nap every afternoon and hold a pebble in his hand.
Oh.
And he'd be in a rocking chair, but underneath the hand with the pebble, he had a little tin can or bucket, and he would doze. And when he'd fall asleep, the pebble would drop into the can and wake him up.
Oh.
And it would usually be in that moment that he had an idea.
Oh, wow.
Because we get our ideas, but we don't necessarily wake up to them.
Right. So he crafted a solution to waking up to an idea. I love it.
Because he's tapping into his subconscious and unconscious mind,
Yeah.
where we can't get to those states unless we're in a very relaxed alpha, theta, or delta state.
Right. Nice. It's a great reminder that relaxation is such a huge component, because I think a lot of times we as humans think, oh, I have to do. And if I step back and surrender or let go or relax, then I'm not doing enough, or I won't ever get there. But remembering that to get there, you have to relax first.
Exactly. I mean, don't you remember in acting classes where they do all these relaxation exercises, but they never told you why?
Oh, yeah. all the time. We'd fall asleep on the floor, or your
Right?
breathing exercises or sound and movement. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I made it very clear to all my students when I was, with my acting academy, I would explain why we did an exercise so that they could navigate later in life to understand that my having them lie on the floor and imagining and recalling, sensory recall and memory recall and
Yeah.
relaxation and using imagination, that there was a reason for those exercises.
That would have been so helpful. I may not have fallen asleep as often
Right?
if I had known like why this was happening. I love it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've talked a little bit about kind of having creativity alive in your life from a child, but when you think about kind of your earliest memories, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
I remember being 5 years old and screaming at the top of my lungs, jumping up and down on my bed, screaming to my parents, I want to be an actor. If I can't be an actor, I want a puppy. And
perfect.
And I also remember when I was 8 years old, like my most creative memories really start at 8. When I was 8, we had a summer cottage and I would go out to the river and I would dig for pockets of clay in the water. And I would take those pockets of clay and I would take out all the little pebbles. And then I would sculpt these little square teapots. And I'd paint them the colors of the rainbow, and I'd let them harden on this big protruding rock that you could sit on, like kind of in the middle, away from, the water's edge. You had to walk about 5 feet to get to this rock. So nobody could, I mean, it was my rock with my teapots, and, and they hardened in the sun. And I remember that after my husband passed, I lost my memory actually. And 6 months afterward, I said to my mother, I said, what was my grandmother's name? And she said, oh my goodness, Barbara, you don't remember your grandmother's name? I said, no, I don't remember Nan's name. What was her name? And she said, you were named after her.
Wow.
And so I took a pottery class. I was led to a pottery class. And in the pottery class, by the time, I just wanted to make my husband's urn. And because I didn't appreciate the cookie cutter urns that they were selling in these, memorial halls. But you can't necessarily make an urn your first pottery class.
So true.
But the first real spinning class that I took, I made this little teapot and I painted it the colors of the rainbow. And then I started to remember again because I remembered that very time when I was 8 years old and I used to go out to the river and pick out the clay.
I love how creativity opened your mind up again, or your memories again. And that's very common when trauma hits our system, to lose memories. And what a gift that you were directed to a pottery class, and it was the pottery, those early pottery memories, that brought those other memories back.
Yeah. And then I taught a class called The Healing Gift of Clay, and worked with a lot of people using clay. And then I started doing jewelry. I was just working with my hands. I was knitting, I was making anything that I could do to escape the pain, and at the same time, connect to joy.
Yeah. That's so interesting when we try and escape our pain, keeping ourselves busy, and then how sometimes through that process it leads us to joy, but can also lead us to transforming the pain that we experience and integrating it in a very unique way that our system can handle.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all these stories. I love them. They're fantastic. And you strike me as someone who is easily inspired, or has a lot of things or places that inspire you, but who or what is inspiring you these days?
I get inspired by innovators and visionaries,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a lot of dead mentors.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I'm very inspired by Einstein,
Yeah.
and also because I've been studying neuroscience for 8 years,
Mm,
and I do brainwave entrainment. I developed a brainwave entrainment program called
great.
Your Genius Code Unlocked. So I'm really fascinated by the people who are bridging, the creative mind with science,
Mm-hmm.
and even spirituality with science.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like I'm the kind of person who's very logical, but at the same time very artistic. And I want to know the answers to everything. So the spiritual part, for me to have faith in, think it, you become it, it isn't enough. I have to dive deeper into, well, what's going on with the nanos and quarks and the atoms and particles, and how is it all working together?
Yeah.
So I've got such a deep comprehension of all of that stuff. So there are people like Bruce Lipton, who wrote The Biology of Belief,
Mm-hmm.
Bob Proctor, my mentor, uh,
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant man. And then, and I'm also highly influenced by people who have gone through amazing struggles: Harriet Tubman, the
Mm,
Underground Railway,
mm-hmm.
Nelson Mandela, Amelia Earhart. Um, you know, there was a woman, Ariane Mnouchkine, who founded a theater company in France called Théâtre du Soleil. Even Dr. Ruth. I mean, people who
Yeah.
put a stamp, you know, have impact
Mm.
and are leaders, and willing to express themselves in a very loud and bold way. Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Mm-hmm.
his work. I mean, these are like the more current people that inspire me.
I love it. Many of them have really stamped history in a big way. And yeah, I feel like that's what you're doing too in the work that you do and who you work with. You're really stamping people's history and history in a bigger capacity as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I tell myself it's still time to play a bigger game. It's never too late. The best is yet to come.
absolutely. I agree completely. That's wonderful. I love it. And you strike me also as someone who has a very large community that you work with, that you interact with. How does your community impact or influence your creativity?
Well, I hang out with a lot of older people,
Okay.
and but these people are like, I, I have a friend who's 75 years old and signed up. She was a client. I helped her, and she signed up for a bodybuilding competition.
No.
I have another 81-year-old friend who is off the charts creative, and I'm just always saying, I hope, I intend to be as creative and as bold as this woman. And they're writers, and I hang out with a lot of producers and writers and actors, and but also entrepreneurs, women who are creating new ideas, new
Mm.
inventions. Women who I just had a client who's an artist, and her intention was to go global as an artist. And in the time we were working together, she manifested an art gallery in Dubai, not
Oh,
one that's going to host her paintings, but one that's named their gallery after her.
oh my goodness.
And so
Wow.
yeah, so I'm hanging out with a lot of people who are dream builders,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
who are living and not stopping the dream. And that's always inspiring and encouraging. And that's what my community is.
Yeah, what a great community. Dream builders. I love that term of just having people around you who are doing that. It's hard to not take part or do it for yourself as well. I can imagine.
Yeah. And I work with a lot of like 20, 30, 40 year olds. But I do have a lot of clients who are, 50 and above, who know they're frustrated with not having really, really reached the depth of their talent. you
Yeah.
know, and they know that um, it's not the end.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I love that. I think that's great because we have so many gifts. And if we want to share them at any age, regardless, there's opportunity to. And so I love that you continue to support. And as you're talking, it just reminds me of like a Sherpa kind of up the mountain.
Yeah, yeah. I use that analogy a lot about not the Sherpa, but definitely let's climb the mountain. And
Yeah.
we don't want to just. I mean, it would be nice to just take a helicopter and land there, but you're not going to really pull up the parts of yourself that you haven't yet met.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's so great. And I imagine your community asks and inspires you to do similar things in your own life that you support them to.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, yes, yeah,
wonderful.
and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. To be, on some level held accountable that you're doing your own work just as much as you're asking someone else to do theirs.
Yeah, and I think that that's a good thing to point out that I mean, our students are our greatest teachers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but when I had the mentality of being a teacher, I taught everybody else, and this was like before I learned all these tools in the coaching profession.
Hmm.
But when I was directing and teaching acting, I taught so many people how to be successful, but I wasn't doing it for myself. And primarily, I mean, I could still be a great teacher.
Hmm.
If I wanted to have the same kind of success, it meant that I had to do the same things that I was telling them to do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can be daunting. And yet when we do it, there's just and what am I trying to say? Like the floodgates open, the top comes off. There's so much more available.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. I
Walk
love
your
it.
talk, right? It's that, and it
Yes.
doesn't mean that you can't teach people and that they can do very well. But I think that when you start doing it for yourself, you become compensated as well.
Right. Yeah. And how you value yourself changes and
Exactly.
in turn supports other people to see you in that new space of value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I tell people I help them grow their self-worth to grow their net worth.
Mm,
And that's the area I find in the arts, that the self-value piece, is where it needs a lot more attention.
yeah. Yeah. There's so much room for it. and, and there's so much opportunity to be creative
Yeah.
within it,
Yes.
how to navigate the self-doubt and self-value. There's opportunities to creatively engage with it. And I think that's a real gift to look at it through that creative lens versus, oh God, this is going to be so hard. But how
Mhm.
can we find some joy and ease and grace and freedom with
Yes. One
that
thing,
self-worth?
exactly. One tip that helped me along the way was to understand that the solution always exists. It's always there.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, always there. We create the problem in order to find the solution,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
right? But we won't find that solution unless we're faced with a problem.
Right.
So, but most people look at a problem as an obstacle and want to back away, shy away, give up,
Mm-hmm.
or say it's not for me, I'm going to keep on my trainer wheels, but it's really that, to understand that the problem has been created in order to look for the solution.
Yeah. It just makes me think so many people that I've had on as guests feel like creativity is problem solving. It's helping get to the answers. So I love that kind of reframe of, yes, we have a problem and it's about creativity to get to that solution.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And to know the solution already exists, right? Somebody else
Yeah.
has already found the answer, or
Right.
the answer needs to be created.
Absolutely. All these wonderful tools and tips and reminders for our listeners and for myself as well. It's great to have them. And when you think about kind of everyday issues that you navigate, what are some issues that you've had to use creativity to solve recently?
I would say self-motivation,
Mm,
being an entrepreneur
yeah.
and every day is, I treat every day as a new day. And so I start with morning rituals to help get me centered, and
Mhm.
so that's the um, self-talk process,
Yeah.
the meditation process. I write out my goal, my big
Oh,
goal every day with my non-dominant hand, and I do that in order to create new neural pathways in the brain,
mm-hmm.
to keep stimulating that the neuron growth.
Yeah.
And and I think that just I ask the question every day, who am I being today as a highly successful entrepreneur? And then I practice all the acting exercises and acting techniques that I teach other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's to um, for the longest time I wanted to work in the corporate world. So I made sure I was up at my desk by 9 o'clock. I was in a suit with pumps on, my hair, makeup, everything done, because I needed to, I pretended that
Yeah.
that's who I was being. And I now know that in order to break up with the habit of being yourself, right, you have to almost write out the character, you write out the role of like,
Mm-hmm.
who are you becoming? There's such a gap between where you want to go and where you are. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you get there? Well, I use feelings to get there. I use
Mm.
imagination to get there. To self motivate, I chunk my time. I use vision boards. I use music. I work with my genius code, which is my life vision statement with
Mm.
brain entrainment programming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm constantly reprogramming and rewiring my brain to stay out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So for me, the comfort zone is the scary place. And I would say that that's my biggest issue is wanting to stay in the comfort zone, you know,
Yeah.
and knowing that it's not a good place and that how to challenge myself, daily to keep growing and keep becoming,
Mm-hmm.
who am I being if I want, a lot of people will say they want to be a millionaire and but they haven't even broken it down to how much is that a day?
Right. Yeah. So the little pieces, the little steps to get there. But oh my gosh, it just sounds like the everyday issues that you experience, you have a toolkit of creativity at your fingertips that
Yes,
you can access in a moment.
yes, yes, yeah.
That,
I've got it written out, and it's kind of like when you're developing a character, right? You've got
yeah.
dialogue, you've got a script,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, well, what clothes does that character wear? What are
Right.
the thoughts that character is thinking? What are the feelings, and how do you access those feelings? So I really know that the missing link in manifestation for people and acquiring their dreams is that they're not connected to the heart. They're not connected to their feeling place. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people come to me and say they don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
I immediately have to politely disagree, because they feel frustrated, they feel anger, they feel disappointment, they feel they're just in denial, So I
Right.
ask people, and I ask myself, what's the biggest lie you're telling yourself?
Great question. Yeah. And it sounds like there's also, maybe people don't have the language, the emotion language to call an emotion or a feeling. And that too can program us to say, oh, I don't have or why would I have emotions? I don't feel that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever story's been programmed for them. But
Yeah.
I love it. That's fantastic. And I know throughout this whole time you have shared bits and pieces and tools and tips about kind of encouraging others. But are there any other ways that you would encourage others to find creativity in their lives?
Yeah, I think that again, start with, just relaxing and creating a fantasy list.
Mm,
Because I think one of the biggest problems, and even for myself, is allowing myself to want more,
oh my goodness. Yes.
right? And so I was in denial for a long time that I even wanted more money.
Mm-hmm.
But then, understanding that the more I had, the more I could do, the more I could share, the more I could give, the more I could have adventure, the more I could help charity, more is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But letting oneself want for more. Most people will encourage other people to go after their dreams, and they would settle for less,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I just would say to become more creative, take a class, explore, if you want to be a writer, take a writing class. I had somebody call me, a plumber that I worked with, call me and say, how do I write a screenplay? And it was like, well, investigate, write a screenwriting class,
Yeah.
investigate a writing class. If you want to be an artist, I had somebody tell me, I had been a theater artist for 25 years by this point, when a man in the airport, I struck up a conversation with him and I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm an artist. I said, oh, I do some pottery. And I didn't say anything about, my theater life. And
Yeah.
I said, I do some pottery and some jewelry. And I said, what kind of art do you do? And he said, well, I just took my first art class on Carnival Cruise Lines.
I love it.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this man is calling himself an artist. And I've been an artist most of my life, and I can't even call myself an artist.
What a beautiful gift to have that moment and that reflection.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it was Christmas, and I went to a Christmas Eve party that year, and I walked in the house, and my friend introduced me to a couple, and they said, wait, don't tell me you're an artist. And then I went into the kitchen, and a woman said, oh my goodness, you have the smile of an artist. Oh. And then I went into another room, and the man said, you've got artist written all across your forehead. And that was like 2 days after I finally admitted to myself that I was an artist.
What confirmation, universal confirmation.
Exactly. And so I say, take a dance class. I've got a client who is in a belly dancing class, and so it's just explore. If you have a desire to sing, take a singing class and join a choir, or, just poke around and, just take that pottery class. I mean, it led me to, to so many openings and doors opening for me. And, I ended up creating a jewelry piece that you could put affirmations inside. And I almost was selected to go on QVC with it.
Oh my goodness.
And, that would never have happened had I not, just attempted a class.
Right. Go and try something. What a beautiful reminder and idea for people when they want to incorporate more creativity in their life. I love it. I have one final question for you. What is your secret to creativity?
Ooh, it's like the secret sauce question.
Yes.
Gosh, the secret to creativity.
Or your secret to creativity.
My secret to creativity is, it's just doing and allowing and setting the time aside. Like I can draw and sketch something for 8 hours, and because I just forget myself and I forget time, and I stop myself from allowing myself to have those experiences because I know I disappear for a long time.
Yeah.
And so my secret really is to chunk my time and give myself permission and say, I don't have to be in the doing mode right now. And that if it takes relaxation in order to have a creative idea, let's say, then set aside 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be 8 hours.
Right. I love it.
Because I could spend all day just being creative.
Yeah.
And, but implementation of, let's say, promoting oneself or marketing oneself or selling oneself as an artist, that takes attention as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That might mean self-value work.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I love it. I love the secret, the time chunk. It's important. And having those days where all the day is getting to be in that flow of creativity too. I hear that as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time to chat with me. It has been delightful. And if people want to get in touch with you or learn more about what you do and the things that you share, how would they go about doing that?
Well, they can reach me always through my email, which is barbara@barbaradoust.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's DAOUST.
Great.
Also, barbaradoust.thinkingintoresults.com is the program that I help people achieve their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And also www.vibrantresults.com. That's my Genius Code Unlocked online program where you could write out your life vision. And I work with a doctor in Spain who adds brainwave frequencies so that you don't have to effort.
Mm-hmm.
Affirmations work when you really deeply connect on the feeling place, as well as repetitively, connect so that you embed, imprint, and plant in your subconscious mind until it becomes a new truth for yourself. But that takes time. And with the brainwave entrainment, it's doing the work for you. It's kind of like a lazy way of getting there.
But it's effective.
But it is effective.
We want to get there. So this is an extra support to make it happen. Nice.
Yeah. And I thought at first it would be a way that I would just get my goals, right? But it over time has been much more about connecting to joy, gratitude, happiness, and groundedness.
Lovely. Oh, that sounds amazing.
What we're after anyway, right?
Absolutely. It's what I'm after. So absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for chatting. It has been just pure delight.
Likewise. Thank you for having me, Marie.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so like us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and your family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your comments, reviews, and questions. Tune in Tuesdays for a new episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.